Macron was furious when he was defeated. The AUKUS submarine was built in the UK, helping the British to add thousands of jobs to the two regions. Macron was driven mad again when the construction of the submarines was expected to take place mainly in Derby and Barrow-in-Furness. This will keep Britons winning by getting more jobs for high-tech workers in the region. Rishi Sunak has secured a big win for Britain as the AUKUS submarines will be built in the UK, creating thousands of jobs. Construction of the submarines is expected to take place mainly in Derby and Barrow-in-Furness, the Defence Department said. Macron was once again angered by the UK, before France's huge failure in the Australian nuclear submarine deal. French technology was criticised by Australia as outdated, when it was rejected by Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison at the time. Britain is set to supply Australia with nuclear submarines as part of efforts to help the country counter the growing threat from China. Australia is expected to buy 8 nuclear-powered submarines from both the UK and the US, sources from both countries said. The UK government has been negotiating with Australia and the US since September 2021, when the AUKUS defense partnership was announced. The first phase of the deal is expected to involve the US supplying Australia with submarines from its own fleet or under a new construction schedule. The vessels are likely to be jointly crewed and possibly commanded by the US military, as it will take years for Australia to train enough qualified nuclear submarine commanders. The plan would then involve the development of a joint Australian-British boat. In a statement last night, Mr. Sunak said submarine production would create thousands of good, well-paying jobs in places like Barrow and Derby. Mr. Sunak's statements were like insults to France, because of Mr. Macron's huge failure. This great British victory brought a lot of money and voice to the British. The Australians chose Britain, proving that British technology is superior to France, when Macron was criticised as primitive technology. He described AUKUS as a strong partnership, adding, for the first time, that means 3 fleets of submarines operating together in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, keep our oceans free, open and prosperous for decades to come. Addressing US President Joe Biden and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister continued, "We represent 3 allies that have stood shoulder to shoulder for more than a century.